Welcome back to KCEN Kickoff here on 6 Plus. My name's Ethan Love, joined here with Sydney Wicker and Sarah Smith. Guys, let's get right into the world of baseball. We're set up in the ALCS and NLCS after some great divisional round games. And something that's really interesting to start out against Sydney, I'll start out by saying sorry for your Tigers.
It's all
that
good.
15-inning Game 5 showdown
brutal.
was electric.
I will say, since it was on Friday, we had Friday Night Lights, of course, I did get to catch like the tail end of a couple of those innings because it went into extras, so that was the one positive side. But I felt like you couldn't be mad after that game. It was so tough. Both teams just really showed why they were so deserving to even be in the playoffs and the postseason. So it sucked overall. It was just a bad sports weekend for Michigan as a whole state.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the Wolverines lost, the Lions lost, the Tigers lost.
Yeah, the Tigers actually I think started the karma, so I'm more mad that they bled into my entire weekend. But you know what? The Mariners, they really deserved it. They pulled it out, and they're showing that they deserve to continue to stay in the postseason picture with where they're at.
Yeah, and exactly my point, Sydney. They're up 2-0 right now on the road, so they picked up the first two wins of the series in Toronto, and the Dodgers doing the same thing in Milwaukee. Later tonight will be Game 3 between Mariners and Blue Jays, with George Kirby on the mound, too, for the Mariners. It's looking promising that they could potentially take a 3-0 commanding lead in this series. Do you guys want to see the Mariners and Dodgers in the World Series, or are you hoping for some comebacks from the Brewers and the Blue Jays?
I feel like the Dodgers and Mariners is maybe the most likely at the moment. I would just love to see the Mariners in the World Series. Like, they've never even been to the World Series. It's not like they went and lost. They've never even made it there. And I feel like if we get a Dodgers-Mariners World Series, those memes will come out where it's like a map of America and it says 99.9% of America is rooting for the Mariners, and then just a little dot of Los Angeles is rooting for the Dodgers. So I am hoping for the Mariners to make it to that World Series. It'll be really good.
Sydney?
Yeah, definitely on board with the Mariners. I feel like that always makes, when your team loses, it feels a little bit better when they make a deep run or
you
win
lose to the
whole
champion,
thing.
so it's
you're
okay.
Like, okay, it's not too bad. But I would love to see the Brewers make a comeback. I feel like they're a bunch of gritty guys. I know the Dodgers are so good. They're always so good time and time again. But would love to see the Brewers really make a comeback. I will say, though, every time Max Muncy does something, I know our Baylor Bears out there are happy for him to see him shine. So if there is any bright side to the Dodgers making it to the World Series, that's definitely it. But I just feel like I'm tired of seeing the Dodgers do it every year, it seems like.
Yes. It's a testament to how good they are. You got to tip their cap, but it's not what the fans want to see.
We're ready for something different, so
exactly.
give it to us.
Exactly. And the thing is, in that series, you can really see the two sides of baseball with such a small market team like the Brewers that's investing into player development and scouting and things of that nature, versus the Dodgers, who really just have an insane payroll, and they're one of the biggest brands in sports. It's them and the Yankees, so they can spend money how they please without really the luxury tax hurting them. So I want to see the underdog story from the Brewers. I want to see them come back, and I think that's something we kind of share. But another positive, if the Dodgers do win, our assistant news director, Matt Gebhardt, said he would come on the show next week because he is a Mariners and Dodgers fan.
I don't know how he's both. I need that story.
Yeah, I think we'll have to have him explain it fully if this happens. But I think it's his parents live in Seattle and he grew up there type of deal. We'll have to see, but he said that he would root for the Mariners over the Dodgers in a potential World Series matchup, just because, like Sarah said, the Mariners have not ever been to a World Series yet, so you kind of got to root for the underdog there. But we're shaping up for a great World Series regardless. I'm fine with any of these teams really besides the Dodgers. It's just good to see different teams in the MLB year in and year out, and that's how baseball goes. It's 162 games. It's going to be different most years, so going to be good to see who matches up in the World Series. But we're going to transition into the world of college football next. A lot of stuff happened, and James Franklin has headlining the week of headlines with his firing at Penn State after that loss to Northwestern. But we're going to get into all that on the other end of this break. Welcome back to KCEN Kickoff here on 6 Plus, where we kick off your weekend of sports just a little bit early. Let's go right into A&M because they're the talk of the town, Sydney and Sarah. They are now ranked number 4, and this is the first time since 2016 that they have been 6-0. That season ended 8-5. Do you think that this season is going to end like that, or can it be a little bit more magical, Sydney?
I'm definitely hoping for more magic. I mean, with what their defense can do, and then with how mobile and different Marcel Reed can be as a quarterback, I think anything is possible for them. We haven't even really seen them fully establish their run game as much as they would have liked to so far this season. So, there's still so much more in the tank. Just last week, we started seeing them use their tight ends a little bit more, which I know is something their OC had talked about a lot during fall camp, is wanting to use those tight ends more. And we're really just starting to see them explore this offense and really peel back the layers of what they can be. But I think what makes them so powerful is that when the offense is off to a slow start, their defense finds ways to keep them in the game until the offense can get on the roll that they need to do. When the defense is slacking, the offense finds ways to respond. Like, they're really playing complementary football when they need to. At the highest level in the season so far, you know, like they really need to keep all those pieces together. So they're on a roll. I hope they keep rolling. I think they've got a lot in store. It's always tough playing any SEC team on the road, and they've got a tough stretch coming up, starting off against Arkansas this weekend. LSU's on the clock too, so it's not going to be easy. But I like what fuel and what fire we're seeing from the Aggies right now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rivalry game as well with Arkansas. Yeah. There always seems to be some
also,
bad blood
the first time they're playing in Arkansas in a long time, because usually this game is played in Dallas.
Yeah, so, it's usually at AT&T Stadium. Yeah. And Marcel Reed also just playing himself into the Heisman conversation, having a great year.
You know what's so crazy about Marcel, just because I've been to a couple A&M games now, I don't even feel like we've seen Marcel at his fullest potential yet, which I think is crazy. I think there's so much more for him, too, which... It's like, if they're already 6-0, Marcel hasn't fully unleashed yet. What more can the Aggies really do, you know?
Yeah. I feel like he'll have the opportunity to showcase that in this road stretch.
Yes,
because
for sure.
If you can come out of this, they're going to be, like you were saying, they're going to be playing in not their stadium for a couple weeks. And they also end their season with Texas. Yeah. That'll be very telling. And if they can come out with wins, that momentum is going to carry this team really far, and hopefully they can put an end to the almost Aggies.
Yes, we will always reference that package, Sydney. Great job of reporting with that one. But on the other side of town, Baylor has had not a perfect season like the Aggies have had, but this game this weekend means a lot. You know, me and Sarah, we've said it before, we're Horned Frogs. This game means a lot to both communities and both schools. This one's in Fort Worth, and I think that these teams have a lot more in common than they usually do. It's more of just the star quarterback, and it's like, oh, the defense is really just not playing up to how they should be. But I will say Josh Hoover has struggled in the past couple of weeks. Sawyer Robertson has been a lot more consistent. And the thing is, Baylor has had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, but TCU coming off of a loss should be more motivated. I really don't know. I think this is a complete coin flip of a game. I have no idea. I don't even want to give a prediction on how this one can go. Yeah. And my heart tells me that TCU is going to win, but I mean,
that's
Sawyer
what
Robertson.
Said at the beginning of the season.
That's what I did say, and you know, and I'll stand on business. But Sawyer Robertson is going to absolutely cook this defense, and I think Josh Hoover is going to absolutely cook the Baylor defense. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring, classic Big 12 game between two rivals, and I don't know. Sydney, what do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. I think this game is going to be close no matter what. I've kind of felt that way even before the season kicked off, just with the way it ended last year and the year before that. When these two teams meet, you're going to get the best shot from both guys, and I love that. You mentioned the similarities. That's actually something I talked about on Locked On Baylor this week with Cam Stewart. I just feel like there's so many parallels between the quarterbacks, between how much they've both kind of struggled getting their run game going, but it's something they could be really efficient at if they could get it going. defenses have both struggled. Like, I just feel like they are two parallel lines that probably don't want to admit it to one another.
Yeah. But they are. They're so similar.
So similar. I really think whoever is able to get the run game going, though, is going to win this game, whether that's Bryson Washington and what he can do for Baylor, or whether that's what TCU is going to be able to unleash on Saturday. So I can't say I have a feeling one way or the other. I usually really feel it when I'm on the sidelines, and so when I'm out there on Saturday, maybe I'll text you and let you know what I'm
you can
feeling.
Get the vibe. I can't wait to get the text. Baylor winning. Baylor gonna win.
I mean, I had a feeling when Baylor was taking on SMU. Like, I just walked on the field and I go, yeah, Baylor's gonna win this game. I just knew. And
maybe you need to start gambling, Sydney. Maybe that.
You know what? Well, after how my weekend went sports-wise, I don't think I should gamble at all. It just depends on it depends on the day for me. But I'm excited to see what Baylor can do off of this bye. Hopefully not come out sluggish. I think that could be the biggest thing that could hurt them going into this game if they do.
Sarah?
Yeah, I talked about on Locked On TCU with Darian Gray yesterday, kind of some similar things to what Sydney was just saying about how similar these teams are. And I think this game is going to be really telling on how the rest of either of these team seasons are going to go. And especially, I don't know if this game is going to be a shootout. I kind of disagree with you there, Ethan. Josh Hoover, I don't know. We rely so heavily on the pass game. The mistakes are so telling. TCU should have torched Kansas State, and it was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. They had 2 turnovers returned for touchdowns, and I think TCU ended up with 3 turnovers. You can't do that, and you're gonna keep having that problem when you don't have any run game and you only have to pass because you don't have any other way to get the ball down the field. You're just passing, and sure, you're gonna force things, and it's gonna get turned over, and it's gonna be a momentum killer. I have a feeling that Baylor is going to win this game, but
Sarah.
I do. I don't know, because also this game is at TCU, and the student section in TCU has been a problem. I had a tweet go viral last season because when TCU was playing Texas Tech, 80% of the student section left.
That's what happened to Baylor against, was it Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's just
Oklahoma State. Gosh, I'm getting my weeks mixed up. No, Kansas State. It was Kansas State.
Yeah.
Because they played at Oklahoma State. Sorry.
Yeah,
the weeks all run together after a while. But yeah, half of the fans left in the third quarter when they went down by 2 touchdowns, only for Sawyer to come back and
it's
win
hot
the
out
game.
there. I don't blame them.
Oh,
but
I do blame them.
I get it.
You have to be
But
there to
come
support your
on.
school, but I know it's hot.
I do blame them, because it's like,
that's the environment.
The fans and the environment that you bring, especially to a Big 12 rivalry game, is a lot more important than you think. How is TCU going to
It's a huge recruiting thing, too.
Absolutely. Like, looking into the stadium and no one's there, that's kind of embarrassing.
Well, Matt Farrell did say there's a cold front, so there's no excuses.
Okay, so it'll be like 80, not 90.
It'll be 80. It'll be like 80, and it's an 11 o'clock game, so there's no excuses for the TCU student section to not show up this week. But kind of as we move into the national headlines here, James Franklin has headlined the week. That loss to Northwestern, what an absolute unraveling of a season. You know, Texas is kind of in a similar situation, but they just got a huge win over Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, which we'll get to in a little bit. But was it time, Sydney? I think it was. The writing was on the wall here.
Yeah, I think because there's been times where they've finished years 10-2 and they've gone to the playoffs and lost in like the first round of the playoffs, or like they've done something and they're just, for their fan base, it's not enough. They want to be competing with Michigan. They want to be competing with Ohio State. They want to be up there. And now even Indiana entering the conversation and Oregon as being these big dogs who can compete in the Big Ten as well. I think if there was any time to just go ahead and say it, I mean, after a 10-2 season, it's hard to be like, okay, let's fire you. You had us ranked in the top 25 all season. You had some good games, just couldn't win the big ones, and now they were losing the
ranked
small
number
ones
one this
too.
season as well, just a few weeks ago.
Crazy to think that. It just felt like it was time. If there was ever a time to do it, now made the most sense for them.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to see who's going to fill that position. The Matt Rule rumors are very interesting.
Did you see his press conference?
Yes, I did.
He's just like, oh, I love Penn State. It's my alma mater.
And
Coach Franklin did such a great job. He never once in that did he say, I am 100% staying at Nebraska.
Yeah, he did say he's focused on the season of what they have.
Yeah, he's focused on this season.
But he did not state his future at all.
He just seems like the type of guy that would go and take that job if it's offered to him.
But just back to James Franklin. Was it time? Yes, it definitely was. I think give him props for what he did do. He made Penn State very relevant.
Stability.
A top-tier program. Drew Allard, a fantastic quarterback. Hate that he's out. That just sucks to hear about an athlete at any time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of summed it up, but one thing I'll add is that when people view your team as just a team that always chokes, something different needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, and they could just never get over the hump, which is kind of sad to say, because I think a lot of the players that played for James Franklin are sad to see this happen. I think he's very well respected as a coach. And again, Penn State has been through a lot with the Jerry Sandusky stuff and things of that nature, and he's really brought some stability and to this program that was much needed. So you gotta tip your cap to James Franklin for that. I'm sure he'll land on his feet somewhere else at a different job, but it's looking like Matt Rule is probably going to be the front runner based on that press conference. Yeah. I think if they give him a call, he will not hang up on them. So, but staying in the Big Ten, Indiana had a signature win this week over Oregon. Curt Cignetti, he deserves all of the praise. Mendoza looks great out there. Sydney, Sarah, is Indiana for real? I think they are.
I think a lot of people have questioned Oregon this season on if they were legit, and they've kind of been a team that's like swept under the radar. Like nobody's really talked about Oregon, or nobody has said like, oh, Oregon for the national championship this year. And then Oregon's had some really good wins this season, up until this point, and they competed again. Now that we look at their win over Penn State, you kind of start to question okay, Oregon, that maybe wasn't as big of a win as it was when you guys first played there.
Yeah.
But just for Indiana to get a signature win like that in Eugene as well. This was not them playing in Indiana. This was on the road, tough environment. Yeah, Cignetti deserves the praise. I think he embodies Indiana so well and everything those fans have wanted for so long. Yes. So it's really happy to see the pride that those Hoosiers have.
Yeah, Sarah?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really heard much about Indiana much recently in college football. So it's just really cool to see this team get a lot of momentum in the season, and hopefully they can make a big play. And winning over Oregon is huge. Like you were saying, I haven't heard much about Oregon since Bo Nix was there, which is kind of weird because they are a fantastic program. But yeah, huge win for Indiana.
Yeah, and kind of coming back to Texas now, another big win this weekend for Texas Tech. Baron Morton goes down again, and their backup, Will Hammond, comes in and just lights it on fire, and they completely roll over Kansas. It was a little bit close there for a second as Hammond was finding his footing, but, I mean, I don't think there's anyone left on their schedule. I say it every week that's going to take down the Red Raiders, and I think that they've really put their foot down as, hey, we're the Big 12 favorite, and if you beat us, then you deserved it. So I think Texas Tech, I don't want to say is a lock for the college football playoff yet, but it's certainly
I will say that.
It's looking that way, and they feel like TCU 2023 or 2022-2023, Sarah, because our friends had mentioned that. Did they feel like TCU a few years ago? I'm like, yeah, they're fun, they're offensive, and they're just winning games. And the excitement is through the roof. Throw all the tortillas on the field. They don't even care about the 15-yard penalties because they're that good. Sydney, do you think the Red Raiders are for real?
Yeah, I do. They've been so tough. Texas Tech is just like one of those programs where they just seem to never need to rebuild. They just reload.
Yep.
And we're seeing that here again. They look really, really good this year. Like you said, any challenges that have come their way, they've responded. That's right there tells you they're a signature program with all the right tools. So, yeah, I think they're definitely a Big 12 favorite. It's very clear to see whoever might end up playing them in the Big 12 championship. Oh, boy, you've got your work cut out for you. But it's interesting because we have Texas Tech, who's like a lock for this, and then another team who people kind of thought was like Utah. Now I'm like, well, can Utah finish it out? Like, it'll be interesting to see who comes up on the other side of the Big 12 from this. So I think that's more where the questions are starting to lie for me. But it is, I mean, the Big 12 is competitive. You never know what can happen any given week. But I think Texas Tech looks pretty legit right now, and I don't think anybody's stopping them anytime soon.
Yeah, and another team that I think is going to turn it around and is in Texas, down in Austin, after the signature win at Red River. I feel like Arch Manning looks better every week.
For sure.
And he looked, this is the first time I've seen him look completely comfortable. And it was on probably the biggest stage that he's been on so far, besides that first Ohio State game, you know, with all the attention and everything. But I think this game more boils down to John Mateer shouldn't have played. It was very clear that even if he said he was fine, he was looking at his thumb, holding it like this after every throw, putting it behind his back, wiping it on the towel. You know, just things that signal to me that, hey, I'm not okay. And then you look at the performance on the field, and it's completely in disarray compared to what we've seen from him before his injury. And so I think maybe he should have sat this one out. Like, there's no way the backup could have done worse than that, right? I feel like that they kind of rushed him back, and maybe this could end up being a lingering injury now, but Texas has to win out, really, to make the college football playoff. Do you guys think they can do that?
I mean, they've got a really good chance to keep it going. They've got Kentucky next, Mississippi State, two teams who they could not easily get a win over, but like it could be in their favor. They do play in Starkville when they play Mississippi State, so that's going to be really tough. And then they host Vanderbilt, which that's going to be a tough one.
That's going to be a fun game.
And then they play Georgia. Like, they've just got such a tough gauntlet of a schedule. Beginning of November, it's Vandy, Georgia, Arkansas, and then A&M.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really get tougher than that to end your slate. But I think Texas does have, you know, a good chance of finishing it out okay. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia. One of these is bound to be at least one more loss.
Yeah.
So college football playoffs, probably not for this season, but I think this year was all about establishing Arch, getting the momentum going. And I really liked what they talked about in the broadcast booth during the Red River rivalries. They said, like, Arch needs to find who he is, and he needs to establish who he is as a player. Everybody talks about Eli and Peyton and all these great guys who he's grown up with his whole life and been lucky to grow up with, but it's time for him to establish his own character and his own style on the field. So I think just giving him a little bit of time to figure that out. It's tough for Longhorn fans who were obviously hoping to have such a good year, and with such a strong defense that they have, it's going to be tough to reload.
Yeah.
But at Texas, I don't think they have too much to worry about over there. But I think this year's definitely going to finish out as a learning lesson for Arch, but going to give him a lot of momentum moving forward.
Yeah, Sarah, do you think they can turn it around?
Yeah, just like you guys were just talking about, I don't think that college football playoff is in store for the season, just how the season started, but we very clearly saw that Arch Manning has it in him against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like the most insane game of the season. Ohio State, I mean, that was the first game, you know. It was a toss-up what we were going to see from him, but so far that has been the biggest stakes game, and he stood on business and looked great. So I think that win is going to give him a lot of confidence moving into the second half of the season where there's a lot of tough teams coming up. And even if they result in losses, I feel like as long as they're close losses, that's still a win in my book for Arch. I think his ceiling definitely has gone up for what this Longhorn team can do next season.
Yeah, and I definitely think this is more so much Oklahoma not making the right decisions as far as their quarterback goes, rather than Arch shining.
Do you really think they would have started John Mateer if he couldn't go? Because I don't know. I mean,
he looked like when he was throwing the ball.
Trust me, I know
the throw looked fine.
It
was just the accuracy was off. Like the spiral was there.
Yeah,
everything was there,
which is obviously going to happen coming off of any injury. I feel like
17 days though from hand surgery.
I don't know.
That feels like mishandling of your medical staff. And speaking of mishandling of medical staff, we're going to get into the 49ers on the other side of this break. Just an absolutely brutal stretch of injuries continue for them. But I think Texas will be fine. Oklahoma's going to be fine. John Mateer just needs to rehab a little bit more, and Arch Manning will continue to grow. But again, we're going to slide into the world of NFL on the other side of this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to KCEN Kickoff here on 6+. Let's get into the world of NFL. I want to talk about the 49ers because I'm a fan of them, obviously, but Fred Warner is now out for the season, and Nick Bosa is out for the season. And all these players are hurt, and it's really sad to see. Brock Purdy's coming back this week, hopefully. George Kittle's coming back this week, hopefully. But I think they might be cooked because that defense needs Fred Warner. He is the quarterback of that defense. He is everywhere on every single play if you watch any 49ers game. And he puts everyone in the right positions. And without someone to do that now, I fear for this young defense now that is very inexperienced, full of rookies, draft picks from the last few years, and I just don't think that the 49ers are going to be able to rebound from losing Fred Warner. Nick Bosa is fine. Like, he's a great player, and he's going to make an impact on pass rush, but losing Fred Warner impacts the entire defense, not just the pass rush. So I think the 49ers might be done. They might make the playoffs because of this good start and the offense and everything like that, and the schedule's kind of easy. But I feel like they're going to be done. Sarah, Sydney?
I mean, I feel like I have a little bit of hope. I mean, TCU legend Dee Winters has been playing alongside Fred for a couple years now, and the fact that Fred is out now kind of gives him this opportunity to really step up into a leadership role, a motivating role, and be a really key part of this 49ers defense. And we've seen him make fantastic plays already this season. So I'm really interested to see that, and if he does kind of take on a bigger role with Fred Warner's absence. So I'm like 80%.
You're 80%, but at 4-2, it's kind of tough. But moving on to your team, Sydney, the Lions. I know it was a rough Michigan weekend.
Yes.
The Chiefs
reminding everybody.
The Chiefs didn't have a single penalty called on them in that Sunday night football game. Very shocking. When Sarah and I were watching this one, remember that PI on Kelsey that the ball wasn't catchable?
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was some questionable calls.
I have to mute my TV sometimes because especially when the Chiefs are playing on Sunday Night Football with Chris Collinsworth, sometimes I have to mute my TV.
Yeah, he can get a little carried away with the Mahomes stuff and everything like that. But I think the Lions will be fine, Sydney, but someone who's not fine is Brian Callahan. Yeah, I was making the rundown on Monday for our show this week, and I was like, we're getting to that point in the season where we could start to maybe see some coaches on the hot seat and maybe even getting fired. And then not even 2 hours later from that, Brian Callahan was relieved of his duties as the Titans head coach. I think this was the right move for the Titans because where they've invested in free agents and things like that, such as Calvin Ridley and L'Jarius Sneed, and all the high draft picks on their offensive line is where they haven't really seen much production. Tony Pollard has not been great behind that offensive line. Calvin Ridley has not been great. Sneed has not been great at all either, and it's been tough because you look to the coach after that, especially after a 1-5 start. But who do you guys think will be next? Because we're bound to see some more coaches go. Sydney, we'll start with you. Who do you think is going to be gone next?
I mean, I hate doing this because, you never want. I just feel like covering so many coaches, this is such a tough situation to be in. I know Aaron Glenn is somebody who's really struggled, but I do think the Jets have made improvement. I think he came into such a, I don't want to call it a messy situation that they're dealing with in New York, but it definitely was not a clean slate that he walked into with fresh faces and everybody probably ready to go. So, but he's not somebody I'm really worried about right now. I think there's still hope. I think there's still a lot
he's a first-year guy
to work
too.
With. It's his first year, but Mike McDaniel, a guy who's been around Miami for a long time, it just seems like there's so many question marks about what the Dolphins are right now.
I think there's a lot going on in that locker room too.
Yeah, and I just, at some point you wonder, when do you point to the guy who leads all of this?
Yeah.
And at what point do you take credibility for that? So if there's anybody who's kind of on hot seat that I've wondered about or even worried about, it's probably Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, and with McDaniel as well, he's a very laid-back coach. He's very quirky in his own way.
He's very goofy.
He's very goofy for a head coach, which is what you don't see. And I think that whole shtick is wearing off.
Yeah, it was kind of funny at first, and now it's getting old. The players are probably getting tired of it, and a coach that can have those moments but also lock in and be serious 90% of the time is something that these players need.
Yeah, and I think McDaniel's more of an offensive coordinator than a head coach just because of that.
Yeah.
As far as like a leadership role goes. But Sarah, who do you think is going to go next?
You know, I am not really sure, but I would like to talk about the Giants head coach. I think if Russell Wilson kept playing this way, he would have been out of here 2 weeks ago. But I just really want to talk about how Jackson Dart has like sort of revived this team and been awesome and given Giants fans a new hope for their team. Him and Cam Scatabo were talking after their most recent game about how they're
talking or taking off their clothes.
Oh, that picture is clean.
Incredible.
Maybe before all of that happened, they were sharing how they are instilling so much positivity and good vibes into this locker room, and I think we are seeing that translate onto the field, and therefore the head coach stock is going up. So he would have been gone, but now he's saved, and I love seeing a team that has been pretty bad for a little bit. Find some good momentum and run with it.
Yeah, and this is without Malik Neighbors too, by the way. Jackson Dart is doing this. It's been incredibly impressive to see him. Sorry, Sydney, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, he can take it himself and through the air, and I think that's what you need in today's league.
I think the most impressive thing about Jackson Dart, I covered him when he was at Ole Miss when I used to work in Mississippi, and I've never seen an offense move faster than when I covered an offense that was led by Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart. The way that they're able to move the ball so quickly, he's almost been used to an NFL-style caliber for a really long time through his entire college career, really. So he really just came into this moment ready to shine. I don't feel like any moment feels too big for him, which is huge, and I think that all stems from what he was able to start with Lane Kiffin when he was in college, and now it's really showing. So, like we said, the Giants are fun again, and it's been fun to watch.
The Giants are fun again. And, you know, this was kind of funny to me, but when Jackson Dart was in concussion protocol, Russell Wilson had to come into the game and play a few snaps, and Russell Wilson threw one pass, and everyone at MetLife started booing him, and
which is so sad.
Because Russell Wilson's fall from grace is just sad. He's honestly played himself out of the Hall of Fame.
Him go though.
Where?
Back with his old coach. Send him to the Raiders.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know. That might have ended sour, though, for them because...
I don't know. They did such good things together. I would like to see if they have like one more trick.
Yeah, well, the Raiders do need help because Gino is not doing it. You know.
I remember when you said he was a lock, and then that proved to be true for 1 week in fantasy.
hey! I said he was a late round sleeper, and he did. He won me week 1. But I'm gonna go right to Kevin Stefanski for my coach of the Browns, and. It's honestly kind of mind-boggling to me how he's been able to keep his job this long, because he's kind of in a similar situation with Brian Daboll, but the quarterback situation is not getting better. And I think that they're going to have to pull the trigger on Shedeur here pretty soon, just hopefully for something, because Dylan Gabriel, yes, he's making all these intermediate throws, but he's not playing to take risks, and he's not playing to win football games. He's playing, when I watch them, to not throw interceptions, which is not going to do you much in the National Football League. And seriously, if the Browns lose this week or next week, I really think this could be done within the next few weeks for sure. And it's not looking good for the Browns once again. Just things get more and more sour every year that Baker Mayfield has left Cleveland and gone on to revive his career playing like an MVP in Tampa Bay, beating my 49ers this weekend, which wasn't fun. But let's do a quick look at fantasy before we get out of here, guys.
Do we have to?
Do we have to? Sydney, what are you sitting at?
Not good.
Not good?
Not
okay,
good,
we'll keep
worse.
Sydney's portion of fantasy short. She is not doing great.
Bus.
I'll take Christian McCaffrey, though.
I just want it to be said, no, I'm not trading. I have, this week, I'm in 3 leagues. I lost every league by 2 points or less.
That's just brutal.
That's horrible.
2 points or less.
That's horrible.
Plus the Tigers, plus the Lions.
I know.
Plus Michigan.
Dude, why are you rubbing it in again?
I'm not. I'm just letting everyone know.
Well,
that
I think they got it by now.
I think you
literally
let them know in the first 30 seconds of the show.
There's always next week, guys.
Yeah, there is. I'm tired of it though. It's.
Sarah, you look great, and you know what?
Yeah,
I'll eat my words on Cam Scatterboo.
You need to eat your words about my entire team. I am currently 5-1. I'm 4 or 5 total points behind Madison, so tied for second, but point total sitting in third place. Yeah. Even if I lose some games, I am still locked in. I trust my team because I was down 33 points to Michael 2 weeks ago, and I still came back and won. So, and you, week 1, were just
I know.
hating.
I know. Cam Scatterboo has really worked out for you, and which I did not think would happen. I didn't think he'd have the.
I honestly didn't either.
That
I didn't think this would have
game
such a
was
role.
Crazy for me.
I think he's running back 5 now. He might be top 5.
It's crazy.
Yeah, he has exploded onto the scene and picked up right where he left off at Arizona State. My fantasy week didn't go great in KCEN.
Good, I'm glad.
Either. Bailey just pummeled me into the ground, so we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I've been bugging Sarah to trade me Sam Laporta because she has Jake Ferguson, and she's just not.
I know, I needed a tight end too. Her and I were talking to trade for him.
See, I'm more likely to help Sydney than you.
Okay, so that's why you couldn't do it. Okay, I
this
see.
was a couple weeks ago, though, and then I picked up, I don't even know who I picked up, but it's been working out okay for me.
Well, that's good.
I get confused across my 3 leagues.
I see, me too. There's a lot of just blur there. I've been hit by the injury bug, too. Bucky Irving being out has not been fun for me.
Yeah.
But 3-3, can't complain. We're still in the mix of everything, and we're going to continue to play. I play Faith this week, which I should win, fingers crossed, but that'd be pretty embarrassing if I didn't. But, guys, I think that's going to do it for us here on KCEN Kickoff. Thank you guys for coming on with me, talking some sports, baseball, college football, and NFL. And, of course, we have our Friday Night Lights coverage coming up on Friday, of course. Yes, we're going to all be out doing all of the Friday Night Lights things. Adrian will be out at Game of the Week, as he always is. We got Baylor and A&M coverage on Saturday. And then, of course, Sunday Night Football on KCEN. You can watch my 49ers probably lose to the Atlanta Falcons on that one. So we have a full weekend of sports for you here on 6+ and on KCEN broadcast. But that's going to do it for us here on KCEN Kickoff, where we kick off your weekend of sports. We'll see you next week.